and welcome to Personality. I'm your host, Lauri Rollings, and my guest today is Lori Seitz, who is an employee well-being consultant. Her innovative approaches to creating thriving workplaces have delivered amazing results. Some businesses that use her techniques experience more than a 30% reduction in workplace stress and anxiety, significantly more engagement, and up to a 200% return on investment. Her newsletter, Workplace Zen, shares ideas for reducing burnout and increasing employee engagement and productivity. So, Lori, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. And I don't know if people are watching the video, but you may see that I have a cat on my shoulder. You know, cats are actually really good for reducing anxiety and stress as well, but they sometimes contribute to a decrease in productivity.
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we hit the record button because I have two cats and one of them really likes to appear on the podcast and in Zoom meetings. So I had to close the door. I had to throw him out in the hall and close the door because he'll ignore me the whole day. But the moment he sees that I'm on camera, he just needs to be there with me.
Yeah.
So they're attention seekers.
They are.
So yeah, they can create anxiety, but they're also good at reducing.
They can relieve, yes, depending on their mood.
So, Lori, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you decided to start doing this kind of work.
Yeah, it was a bit of an evolution. I started my first business in 2003. I was making a product called gratitude cookies that were based on a family recipe. And because I have so many years of marketing background, I presented them as a way for businesses to say thank you to their clients and referral sources. And I talked a lot back then about gratitude and how gratitude is a differentiating factor in business and how gratitude affects businesses. And I think I may have been a little bit ahead of the curve, but I ran that business for 11 years, couldn't quite scale it the way I would have liked to and shut it down. Then I started talking about networking strategies, which is still really important, but then pandemic came along. And somebody at that time asked me to do a presentation on gratitude. Like she knew me from back in the gratitude cookie days. And that kind of drew me back into another pivot and into talking more about tools and techniques that can help people feel less stressed. And while that in and of itself is like a worthy goal, right? But sometimes businesses want more hard metrics on that. And that's when I started digging into a lot of the research that's been done that shows that these tools and techniques and strategies that I teach actually contribute to improving focus, improving innovation and creativity, and improving productivity, reducing increasing retention and increasing engagement. And there's all research behind this.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out because I think a lot of times when we talk about gratitude and showing appreciation to employees, a lot of people, may have the response that, that's all feel good stuff, but how does that impact the bottom line? So can you talk a little bit more about the connection between employees feeling appreciated and increased productivity and, the positive return on investment?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a study done, I think it was I want to say University of Pennsylvania, about gratitude. People who practice gratitude are 50% more productive. And that a different study was the number one reason why people leave jobs is that they don't feel appreciated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell that I identify with that?
Gratitude improves the working environment, and it plays a really important role in establishing a healthy environment where employees feel happy and valued and cared for. And those are factors, of course, that contribute to engagement and retention. And there was something else I wanted to find that said about how many people have 65%. 65% of Americans didn't receive recognition in the workplace last year.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there was another study from Harvard and Wharton that showed receiving a thank you from a supervisor boosted productivity by more than 50%. Yet people are less likely to show gratitude at work than anywhere else. And only 10% of people who express gratitude make it a daily habit at work. And 60% of those, 60% of the people don't express gratitude at all. And I think part of the reason for that is that a lot of times people feel that showing appreciation, I don't understand this, but showing appreciation is kind of a weakness.
Right.
Like showing kindness is a weakness. But the opposite is true. I was reading a few weeks ago, there was an article about how people they did a survey on vulnerability. And they were asking people about their thoughts on people who show vulnerability. And respondents said that they felt, what was it? They thought more positively of people who showed vulnerability. They admired them more and respected them. That's the word I was looking for. They respected them more if they showed vulnerability. And yet they thought that if they personally showed vulnerability, that would be seen as a weakness. So it's kind of an odd, right, dichotomy. Right. I respect and admire you for showing vulnerability, but if I do it, it's going to make me look bad.
Yeah, but at the same time, I understand that. I mean, both of those intuitively make sense to me, right? Like, because people who show vulnerability, it humanizes them. Right. And it's a lot easier to follow a leader who admits to making mistakes and being human. But we also have a culture in our workplaces that's very punitive toward making mistakes. Depending on the work environment, there aren't a lot of, I would call them psychologically safe work environments where people feel free to make mistakes and then own up to them. So can you talk a little bit more about how we can go about creating environments where people do feel more comfortable showing their vulnerability and, owning up when they make a mistake?
Yeah, I think that comes back to gratitude, showing gratitude and appreciation and letting people know that you value their contribution to the team and to the mission. And instead of just pointing out the things that they're not doing right or that they could do better, which is pretty common, catching people doing things right and acknowledging those things. And so I think that's the first step, because now you're creating, like you're saying, you're valuable to the team. And if somebody feels valuable or valued, then they are more likely to be vulnerable. And I haven't seen a study on that. That's just me talking, because that makes sense. That if you feel like you're a valued part of the team, then you're going to allow yourself to be a little more open and accepting of other people's mistakes.
Absolutely. So you said something about people who practice gratitude on a daily basis being more productive. Can you talk a little bit about what that term practicing gratitude means?
It's a habit. Gratitude is a way of being, is a way of looking at the world. And I just this week had some conversation about Henry Winkler, the actor.
The Fonz,
right. And how he's been called the kindest person in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he had said somewhere that it was gratitude. It wasn't that he was just kind. It's that he feels gratitude for everything in his life, and that makes him more kind because that he's showing gratitude. And I actually met him many, many years ago at I was part of a literacy council of Palm Beach County or something like that. And they had an awards lunch, and he was the keynote speaker. And he went around to every single table, and there were many of them, and took pictures with people, and he was just so kind. And I remember him because of his demeanor, his nature, like just the energy surrounding him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's an example of practicing gratitude, gratitude for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I aspire to be like that as well. And I think it's an admirable aspiration for anyone to find gratitude in every situation. And so when I talk about practicing gratitude, it's a matter of looking for what can I be grateful for right now. And so here's an exercise or a practice that people who are listening to this podcast can use in the business environment. Let's say you're running a meeting, starting that meeting with what's good in your world right now? What's going right now? And asking everybody who's in that meeting to say something, because it refocuses your mind on what is going well instead of where we would more naturally go to is complaining and criticizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that subtle shift to a more positive mindset, does that have measurable impacts on productivity?
Absolutely. Because when you are practicing gratitude, you're energetically at a higher vibration. I know it might sound a kind of woo-woo, but as humans, like the whole world, our whole universe is made up of energy. That's science. And we operate at different energetic vibrations. And gratitude is the highest that you can possibly get to. And so if you're operating at this higher level of energy, people around you feel that. And you feel that it changes your physiology. It actually literally changes the way your brain is wired. And so when you change the way your brain is wired, the way you see the world changes. Wayne Dyer had a quote that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yeah, that's a really good way of stating it. Now, I know that you've written that there are more effective and less effective ways of showing gratitude. So, for example, I know you're not a big believer in like snacks and fancy coffee and like foosball tables and things like that as a way of showing gratitude. Why aren't those as effective as, some of the techniques you would recommend?
Well, I'm all for snacks. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I didn't mean to paint you as anti-snack, just
not anti-snack. And that whole gratitude cookie business that I ran for 11 years.
Yeah,
I was not, people were giving, but it was one way to show gratitude. And it is still, I think when you have those things in a corporate environment, they get taken for granted. Like it's just part of the package. Like
Sure.
People don't even see that as, it's not necessarily as a way of showing gratitude. That's just it's something we have in the office. But when you are giving somebody a thank you note or, a written note that they could keep on their desk, that's so special. Or if you are just even verbally giving them a compliment on how they've contributed to the project moving forward this week. And being very specific, not just, hey, Lauri, thanks for being here this week. Okay. I mean, that's better than nothing.
Right.
But if you could be more specific about why you're grateful for that employee's contribution, it makes it much more impactful and meaningful. And these are things that don't cost money. I mean, snacks and coffee and foosball tables cost money, but
that's true.
These other things are, I would argue, more impactful and they cost nothing.
Yeah. The thank you note. I mean, what a great idea. So few people do that, even in just the outside world. I don't think I've ever seen it happen in a work environment. Can you tell us a little bit more about, you said that like people are the least likely to show gratitude and say thank you in a work setting versus in a social setting. Why do you think that is?
Because they see it as a weakness. And I need to be tough at work and I need to show up with my work persona and I need to just be here to get the job done. and niceties. There's no room for niceties. But the fact of the matter is that, and this makes sense if you actually think about how humans are wired in general, we want to work we want to be appreciated and know that we're valued. And so going back to the saying something or writing a thank you note, it's much more personalized than just, hey, there are snacks in the break room.
Right.
But the impact, I think people are reluctant because, they just think we're just here to get a job done.
Right.
But this actually moves the ball forward faster.
Right. And it gets back to what you said earlier, which is most people leave because they feel unappreciated. And I can certainly identify with that. I'm sure you can.
Absolutely. And it works all the way around. So employees will leave because they don't feel appreciated. Customers will also leave because they don't feel appreciated by a business. So showing the simple act of showing appreciation and practicing gratitude. Now, showing appreciation is a little bit different than practicing gratitude.
Okay.
But showing appreciation, for someone, whether it's for a colleague or a team member or a customer, you're essentially acknowledging their value to you. Practicing gratitude is that act or that practice of finding the good around you, looking for things to personally be grateful for. So I have this exercise that I call the but I'm grateful for exercise. And, we're human. So naturally we're going to find things to complain and criticize about. We don't even have to look. We just find them and we just do it because we're human. So next time you do that, so give me an example of something that might have happened in the past few days that you may have complained about.
Oh, well, the first time we recorded this podcast, Lauri, this is actually our second take because the first time we recorded it on Friday the 13th. And I gesticulate when I talk and I knocked a huge quart of smoothie on the floor right at the beginning.
That's right.
And which was really embarrassing because it's the first time I'd ever met you. And I'm like, oh my God, I must look very unprofessional. And so I could complain about that ad nauseum.
Right. Yeah. And I did not have that impression of you at all. So just for the record. So complaining about, I can't believe I knocked this over, so clumsy. And, but I'm grateful that we were able to reschedule and we're doing it now. Or I'm grateful that it's a sunny day outside and it's beautiful weather today. Whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be related to the complaint.
Or I'm grateful that Lauri is such a kind, understanding, forgiving person.
Whatever it is, the point is we are reframing the situation and looking at the part to be grateful for. And now there's a reason we use the word but I'm grateful for, because you may have heard that but is not it's not always the best word to use. For example, if I was saying, Lauri, you did a great job on that project last week, and I really love that you did X, Y, and Z, but next time, now you're not even listening to the compliment I just gave you. You're only listening for the other shoe to drop. And so that's why in those situations, it's better to say and. In this situation, we're purposefully and intentionally using the word but to negate the first part, which is the complaint, and focus on the second part, which is the gratitude. And the more you practice this, because you're going to have to practice. We're used to complaining and criticizing all the time. We're not used to finding gratitude all over the place. So it's a matter of catching yourself in the moment and going, but I'm grateful for, and keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. I invite anyone who's listening to do this for the next 7 days and see how things in your life might change.
Absolutely.
And it can apply to every situation, situation. If you have a situation that you're like, I just cannot find gratitude here at all,
Mm-hmm.
I invite you to email me or text me or somehow reach out to me, and I will help you find it. I guarantee we will find it.
That's great. Yeah. If you dig deep enough, you can probably find something positive to say about any situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I have plenty of stories of being in situations that did not look like they were full of gratitude. And yet that's all I was feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can relate to that as well. I mean, there have been a lot of very painful, challenging things that I've gone through that in retrospect were very, very positive growth experiences. And so I think being able to reframe things like that in the moment versus 30 years later can be even more effective.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that when you are in a painful or emotional situation that you should turn down those emotions and block them out and just say, no, I'm grateful. It's good. I'm saying feel those emotions and still find the gratitude.
Absolutely. So I know one of the techniques that you recommend for increasing performance potential is meditation. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you recommend that?
First, I will say that some people are a little averse to the term meditation. And so for those people, I would recommend thinking of it as a calming or grounding exercise.
Okay.
Let's use some different words and see if that changes how it feels for you.
Okay.
Now, this could be as simple as breathing. We will assume that anyone who's listening to this is breathing. However, when people are stressed, and most people are stressed all the time, they don't even realize it, or they are aware of it. When you ask somebody, how are you doing? And they say fine, which that's a whole other story for me. Don't say fine. Fine is a 4-letter word. They're not really. Most people will admit to feeling stressed most of their day, especially in the workplace.
Right.
And they're not breathing deeply the way we are designed to breathe. And so just stopping and taking 90 seconds to 3 minutes to take a really deep breath in and breathe in all the way down to your abdomen. And if it helps, put a hand on your abdomen and the other hand on your chest and breathe in really deeply and feel the air going all the way down into your abdomen. Hold it there for a couple of seconds and then let it go through your mouth. And just as you're breathing out, do that a few times. The breathing in, the breathing out. Feel your neck relaxing. Feel your shoulders relaxing away from your ears. You're down the back, down your spine, and just feel your entire body relaxing. What you're doing there is you're oxygenating your blood and your brain, and you're giving your whole nervous system is just calming down, and you're giving it a little bit of a reset. Now, when you do that, you are kind of clearing the pathways to be more focused. And when you are more focused, you can make better decisions. You can think more clearly. So you are now going to be more creative and more innovative. You're going to be less likely to be drawn into conflicts because you are feeling grounded. Like when I say grounded, I mean you feel rooted like a tree. And there's another exercise you can do as well that for grounding, and that is to go outside. And if you want to take your shoes off and stand in the grass, you can do that. You don't have to take your shoes off and you don't have to stand in the grass, but it does add to the experience. And do some deep breathing, like we just talked about, while you're standing. And you can have your eyes closed if that feels comfortable for you. And imagine you are a redwood tree. And you have roots that go really deep into the ground. And nothing, not even a Cat 5 hurricane, is going to blow you over. You're just rooted and grounded. And you you may sway a little bit as winds come. And when this is obviously a metaphor, winds is chaos, whatever's happening around you at work or at home, you're going to move, but it's not going to knock you over. You are rooted and grounded.
So what would you say to folks in the audience, many of whom are busy construction professionals, who are going to say, Lauri, I don't have time for that. I've got a million things on my plate.
Yeah.
I've got 87 things on my to-do list. Or, I work in a very macho environment where people are going to make fun of me if they walk in and see me deep breathing or like standing with my feet in the grass. Like, how would you respond to that kind of resistance?
Well, first of all, nobody has to notice the deep breathing.
Yeah.
Like that can be something that you do even when you're sitting in a meeting and things are getting heated, or they're not. You just feel like you need to rejuvenate yourself.
That's true.
Because what you're doing with the deep breathing is you're helping your body release those feel-good chemicals of dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin, and reducing the stress hormone of cortisol, which is typically coursing through people's veins and causing all kinds of dis-ease in the body and in the mind. So I would say, yes, I hear you. I'm not ignoring your environment and your culture in that industry. And how badly do you want to feel better?
Yeah.
How badly do you want to be more productive and more focused? And when you practice these things, gratitude or meditation or grounding exercises or whatever it is, it's going to help you be more, we said productive, but when I say that, I mean, because you're sharpening the saw, essentially. Stephen Covey talked about sharpening the saw. That's what you're doing. It's going to take you less time to do things. So something that might have taken you an hour might only take you 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And so you're essentially buying back time. But not only are you buying back time, because then, what we typically do, I bought back time. Let me stuff it with something else.
Right.
Let me add on to my plate of things to do. So you're doing that, but you're also boosting how you feel about this, how you feel about different situations. So yes, nobody has to see you doing these things.
Yeah.
At lunch break or where you can walk away from where everybody else is. And it doesn't take long. I'm not saying this needs to be an hour practice. It could be done in Andrew Huberman did some research and showed that 3 minutes of meditation. And when we talk about meditation, again, it could be those breathing exercises. 3 minutes has a profound positive benefit.
Yeah. And, the meditation that I do, my instructor recommended you do it first thing in the morning before breakfast.
Yes.
So that way you're at home, nobody sees you doing it, but it does clear your mind and sort of set the tone for the rest of the day, that you're not jumping out of bed and just rushing to check your email, or, you take a little bit of time first thing in the morning before you even eat breakfast to kind of calm the nervous system and prepare yourself for the day. So there are a lot of different strategies for doing it in a way that's discreet, but still effective if you fear that you're going to be judged for being vulnerable in that way.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that morning routine, because that is something I also recommend and something I do myself. And, just taking a few minutes to set the intention for your day. Most people do not do that at all and don't even know that that's a thing that could be done.
Right.
And it is. You can set the intention for your day. You can wake up in the morning, take some deep breaths, and visualize or think about, some people are better at visualizing in pictures, and other people do better feeling. How do I want to feel today? Do I want to feel calm and grounded or joyful, excited, lit up, whatever it is? How do I want to feel today? And practice feeling that for a minute or two.
Mhm.
Other people do better visualizing a picture of what they want their day to look like. Whatever it is, there's no right or wrong way here. It's what works for you. And doing that first thing in the morning, like you mentioned, before you touch your phone, don't open your eyes and look at your phone and start going, because then your day has already gotten away from you now.
Right. Exactly. There's 1,000 emails backed up from overnight.
Yeah.
Screaming headlines.
Yeah.
So if you can just take a moment to sort of pause and chill out before the day even begins, it really is effective. I mean, I have found myself to be much more productive since I started meditating probably 5 years ago. It has bought me back a lot of time. Even though it takes time to meditate, I find that I don't have time not to meditate, because I know when I don't do it, like if I'm traveling, I'm on the road and my schedule is such that I just don't have time to do it because I'm in meetings from morning until night, I find myself losing focus. I know I'm not being nearly as productive as I would be if I were able to be in my regular routine. So I really think there is something to the productivity bonus of going, having a routine meditation practice.
Yeah. And I will add to that you could do it in the morning. You could do it at night before you fall asleep. You could do it both times if you want. I mean, nobody's stopping you, but you can do it. Really, again, it comes back to what works for you. However, I will mention that setting a good evening routine also sets you up for a better day the next day. So whether your day today is going to be fantastic or really crappy is somewhat set up by how you went to bed last night.
Right. Absolutely.
And the same applies if you are on your phone until the minute you shut your eyes, you're not giving yourself space and grace to gradually shut things down.
Right.
I would recommend putting the phone away. It is going to be hard. And it's hard for me, even when I teach this, an hour before bedtime, putting it down and not looking at it and doing something else with that hour to signal to your body, okay, we're shutting down. It's time to rest and recharge and do a meditation or read a book or whatever it is, so that you are falling asleep, and it will help you fall asleep. And most people don't sleep well. I can hear that complaint a lot. I don't sleep well, or I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm not getting good sleep. But setting yourself up in this way and listening to healing frequency music or listening to a guided meditation as you're falling asleep will help you sleep better.
Yeah. I mean, my son's pediatrician has recommended that because the blue light emanating from your phone tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. And so you're slower to release the sleep hormones when you're looking at your phone. So he recommends putting it away an hour before bedtime. So,
and I admit that it is difficult.
It's hard. Yeah. Cause we're expected to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Well, what you notice is how addicted you are to it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So again, I challenge, if you're listening to this, to the next 7 days and pick one of these things, not all of them at one time. Pick one and do it for the next 7 days, and then evaluate, how do I feel? Do I feel better? If you do, keep going.
Yeah.
What happens if you don't? If you don't, you can either choose to go another 7 days or and see how you feel then, or you can just stop doing it. It's not, I think that you will feel better.
Yeah. I like that. Baby steps, low barriers to entry, low commitment.
Right. And I know they say, a habit takes 21 or 45 or whatever, how many, we're not saying you're going to establish, and you're in the very baby steps of establishing a habit. I'm saying do it as 7 days as an introduction.
Yeah. Great. Well, is there anything else that you would like our audience to know or think about?
There's one last thing I want to talk about in terms of meditation, and that the practice of meditation, and that is how many of the most successful business leaders in the world do it. people like Ray, well, I don't want to talk about Ray first. I want to talk about like people like Richard Branson, who is the founder of Virgin Everything, and Bill Ford, chairman of Ford Motor Company, Ariana Huffington, founder of Huffington Post, and Ray Dalio, who is an OG in Wall Street. And I mentioned him last because to me, Wall Street is the complete opposite as far as you can get from woo-woo. And he's practicing it, and he talks about it in interviews about how much his meditation practice contributes to his overall success in business, because it makes him more focused, more creative, better able to make decisions. It makes him a better leader. He talks about this. So if the highest performing business leaders are practicing meditation and you want to be successful in business, why would you not?
That's a really good point. Nobody on that list is a hippie, right? They're all very, very successful, well-known, powerful people. So yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to the power of meditation and mindfulness in terms of sharpening productivity and contributing to the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. You may be able to tell I'm really passionate about this, and I love teaching and sharing these strategies with business leaders and their teams.
That's wonderful. Well, I really want to thank you for this really enlightening conversation. I will be sharing in the show notes some more information about what you do and how to get in touch with you. So, Lauri, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me, Lauri.